Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Dive In cast, where we dive into diversity and inclusion. Today, our special guest is Abner, and then with me as a co host, Alicia.
What up?
So, let me introduce myself real quick. My name is DNA Vega. I'm an animation major, and it's my third year here at USF. I identify myself as Mexican American, and right now we're in the SGA office or Student Government Association, here located in Trinity. It is on the what side is Trinity? This side?
This is the west side.
On the west side. So is everyone welcome to say hi?
Yeah, definitely. We got coffee here too if anyone wants some.
All right. Who wants to introduce yourself first?
Okay, I'm Alicia Gonzalez. I'm a junior here and I'm studying studio art. And what else? I'm Mexican and Peruvian.
Nice.
Who are you?
Hi, my name's Abner Martinez. I'm a nursing major, and this is my senior year here at USF. I was originally pre-med, however, I switched majors like halfway through my sophomore year, so yeah, this is actually my 5th year here at USF.
Oh.
Yeah, and I am 100% Guatemalan.
Well, I'm glad that you were able giving us the chance to interview you, and I'm excited to get to know you and you as a student. So we're gonna ask you 5 questions, 5 simple questions. It's about you as a student and a person of culture and the experience that you live through everyday life, through your everyday life. So our first question: what's the difference between the culture at home and the culture on campus?
Ooh, it is totally different, I would say. First of all, the language. We fully speak Spanish at home. My mom actually doesn't speak any English at all. My stepdad does, like he knows like street English per se. And then like with my sister, I try to speak in English sometimes because she's also learning. We moved here to the U.S. about almost 9 years ago now. So it's been a little harder for her because she was already older, so that she couldn't go to school. So I try to speak in English to her so that she can learn a little bit more and practice it. So that's the first big difference, I would say. Um, there's a lot of things that I could go into, but just like let's say the food is also very different. Obviously at home I have like homemade meals most of the time, whereas if I am here on campus, like I usually don't eat Trinity like here in the dining hall. I usually just go out, so it's mostly fast food all the time. And also it has to do with like the timing that I have in between classes, so it's a little harder.
Yeah, especially as like here they offer more of like American cuisines instead of like different cultures, which is understandable. They usually put off like different offers of different foods for different people, but sometimes they don't have that cultural food that I guess most of us in this room miss. Especially for me, like taquitos de lengua sounds really good right now, and they have mashed potatoes. I'm like, well, that's okay, I'll eat.
And I think St. Francis has done a very good job over the last couple of years. I've seen a big change since I started my freshman year. So like sometimes in Trinity they will have like foods from like different like cultures and stuff, and again like they've done a really good job, but it's still not the same, like it's just not.
It's not your mom's cooking,
right,
or your like grandma's cooking,
right,
someone like from your family's cooking.
Right. So it is different in that way.
Going back to where you were talking about how you moved back here and like 9 years ago, how old were you?
I was 14 when I moved here, but I turned 15 that summer, so almost 15. I was starting my freshman year of high school. So
no, go ahead.
I had started my 9th grade back in Guatemala. So I was like halfway through the year, but then I moved here. So I had to start it again, which I think in the long run it ended up being beneficial for me just with the English language again, because I did not know any English at all when I moved here.
That.
So it was like I had gone to this academy over there where I was learning English, and I knew how to read a little bit and like how to write it, but the pronunciation was completely different.
I understand. Yeah, English is very funky at times.
Yeah. But I like the language, I guess, and like it really, I feel like that really helped me at school. You know, like my teachers were like, you know, like you're really like fast learner and stuff. But again, I liked it, and I mean, I kind of had to anyways because I was like I had 3 periods of like English classes, and then the rest of my classes were like regular classes where I was with like just people that were born here and stuff. So like, and like I didn't get any like special treatment or anything like that. You know, like I had to do the same homework. I had to do like or take the same exams. So it was a little hard.
Yeah, I understand. I'm impressed that you have faced through I want to say a difficult time where coming to a new country is like a new experience to you, and you have to readjust yourself compared to like you living in the in your Guatemala, in the country you came from, and then coming here is like, whoa, I have to learn a new language, learn the proper pronunciation, getting along with your peers in that high school, and I'm like absolutely impressed. And like I understand how you went through that. You went through it when you were older. When I'd experienced something similar, but I came here. Well, I was born here, went back to Mexico for 2 years around the recession, and so it was a very difficult time for my family. And when the recession was like over, we came back here. But like first and second grade, that's where you're mostly learning that language, and so I was learning mostly Spanish, and I was forgetting my English. And when coming back here, they're like, "Oh, well, you're failing at English," because I had F's in English. I'm not gonna lie. The only good grade I had in like the categories would be math, science, or sometimes social studies if I'm lucky.
Right.
And so I'm very impressed with you, especially at an older age. You went through a hardship, and you must be really proud of yourself. Look where you came from.
I know. It's definitely I am proud of it. Like looking back, just again like going back into like the culture and stuff. It's just so different. Like even our education systems. Like you know, I was sharing this story with one of my friends recently this week. That I moved here and I went to Northside High School here in Fort Wayne. And the first day that I went to school, we got assigned our lockers. That's something that you don't see back in our countries. Like our schools aren't as big, you know, at all. So like I was really excited, you know, and like I was like, this is something that you only see in movies, like you know, like High School Musical and things like that. And so like I'm like that's something very simple, but someone that like was born here they completely don't understand that, you know. And like I'm like it's something very simple, but like it just made me really excited, you know. It's like I'm living a whole new life or something. Yeah.
So our second question is, what does it feel living in the Midwest or Indiana? I'm assuming that you grew up here mostly in Indiana.
Yeah. So ever since I moved here to the U.S., I've lived in Fort Wayne. So I haven't really experienced living in another city or like a bigger city. A lot of you know, like just through conversations with people are always like, oh, Fort Wayne's so boring or like there's nothing to do. But I personally love Fort Wayne just because it's not as big, you know. I mean, it is like just within the last 8 years that I've lived here, like there's been definitely like an increase in like population and just even like growth overall. Like I've seen it, but it's still, you know, a city where like something that I talk about all the time is like I can get from like anywhere that I want to like any location in like 15-20 minutes, which in another city you probably you wouldn't be able to do that. You know, like a city like Chicago or like New York, you know, bigger cities. But again, I think still like I'm living that, like obviously there's still a big difference between here and Guatemala where I live. But since it's a smaller city, I can still feel that sense of home. And like again, like if I want to visit like family that I have here or you know, any friends, like they're close by, and like I like that.
Very local.
Yeah, very local.
I feel like Fort Wayne is a good balance between having some city aspects and having a small town and like people minding their business, if that makes sense. Because in Elkhart, where we're from, there literally is not anything to do. Like you go to Walmart, and I feel like you do that here too. But here, there's more local shops. They have more like market events here, and they have like Johnny Appleseed. So, I like
Yeah,
that's cool.
I agree.
I feel like compare like Elkhart and Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne has more to offer and more
Yeah.
events, giving the chance of like people to come together as a community and experience something. I wish that Elkhart could do something similar, but I think right now they're too busy doing construction than
Yeah,
taking care of
Are
like
you
the
from
community.
Elkhart too?
Yeah, both of us are from Elkhart.
Okay.
Besties of like, what is it, 9 years now?
Is it?
Wow.
It's like 8 or 9
A really
years.
long time. We met in like 7th grade, middle school.
Okay.
So been a while.
That's very nice.
But funny thing is, neither of us were born in Elkhart. I was born in Oklahoma, Tulsa, so I'm like southern, and then
I was born
Alicia.
in Manhattan, New York.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
how did you guys end up in Elkhart?
parents,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the short way to put
Makes
it.
sense.
parents. You don't have much of an option when you're like a 8-month-old baby, like I was.
Yeah, same. A lot of people ask me, well, how did I end up in Fort Wayne? They're like, why don't like out of the whole United States, like Fort Wayne? But my uncle was actually living here. He moved here like way before we did, and then my mom actually moved here to the U.S. when I was 6. So then I stayed in Guatemala living with my grandma and my sister, and my mom moved to Virginia. But obviously over there it was a little bit of a bigger city. She did not like that. But one time that she came to visit my uncle, she's like, I love Fort Wayne. So then she ended up moving here with my stepdad. So once we moved to the U.S., 9 years after that, then we're like, hey, it's Fort Wayne. But again, I love Fort Wayne.
Yeah, I can see why. It's a
Yeah.
really good city. I don't know if I would enjoy living here. It's a good place for like people to come here and like experience different, I guess, cultures. As I traveled around the city, I can see how like a section of the city can go to like a culture or a community.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really happy that you have that here.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I feel like you could definitely see that. Like there's like little communities all around, like Burmese and Hispanics, and just you can really see that. I think that's pretty cool.
Challenges of being a student here. Is okay.
Like any aspect.
Yeah, any challenges that you think you face. Sometimes it can be like mental health or like physical or like challenges to academics or anything like that. Up to you what the challenges that you face.
I think, again, that first year that I was here, and again, St. Francis has done a very good job improving those things. But the first year I came here, I was like one of the only Hispanics here. Like it was mostly white school, dominated school, and so it was a little harder to, especially like me. It's like I had already been here in high school for the 4 years, but it was still hard. Like like coming to college as a first generation student, not knowing anybody. Like none of my friends that I had made either of the high schools that I went in here like came to St. Francis. So it was a completely new environment for me at the time, and also I was a commuter. I'm still a commuter, but it was like I would have this like big breaks in between classes. So I would come in the morning at 8 a.m., take one class. It was over at like 9, 10 or whatever, and then I would go home because I live like 8 minutes from campus. So like again, I would go home to eat that homemade food, and like then come back for my afternoon class. So like I never really had that many connections. But over the years, like I started seeing more Hispanic people come in and people from other races, not just Hispanic as well. And I started getting more involved on campus, like with different positions as like here, like a peer mentor, as student government. And so I started attending more events and started building those relationships, and definitely like that made my time here at St. Francis a lot more enjoyable than what I was experiencing that first semester. Academically, one of the challenges that I would say is just having that like small school, which I like. I like being at a smaller campus. However, that brings some downsides to it as well, So like, for example, as when I was pre-med, most of my classes were like offered like once, like one time out of the day. And like in other colleges or universities, you can sometimes have the option to like do a morning class or an afternoon class, like even if it's the same class, just offer multiple times. But here it was only offered that one time.
That one time, yeah.
So you were kind of like forced to follow that schedule, which is fine. But I am not a morning person at all.
Yeah,
me neither.
So I guess that's my biggest thing. Like I am not a morning person at
I
all.
understand that. This whole year, I had classes every day at 8 in the morning. I'm
no.
not a morning person.
Yeah.
So I have to wake up. I need those classes.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think that was one of the biggest things. Like, again, even if it's like 9 a.m., like I'm like, oh, that's too early for me.
Yeah, you see the clock. Like, oh.
But I guess there's still like good things to like you get it done earlier in the day. I never really had any like late afternoon classes, so that's always nice too, because you have you finish your day a lot earlier. Now that I am in clinicals though, I have to wake up at 4:45, so I have no option. And I've actually because I used to work at a hospital third shift, and like I was like, oh, like I'm gonna work third shift for the rest of my life. Like I just I'm not waking up early. But now that I've done clinicals, like I have to do that 3 times a week. So like I feel like I'm getting used to it now. And I'm like, maybe I could do like a first shift job. We'll see.
Good luck. I am like wishing you good luck waking up, because I understand not being a morning person, and I'm especially not a morning person. But like obviously I understand where you're coming from, where here being on USF, they offer only that one class once like a week, or it doesn't have the multiple options of like a different time. Same for like, I think for everyone, I can speak for everyone. Everyone's experience the same. And so like me as an art student, it's not fun to wake up and work on a project, especially where you're like half asleep and can't think. And like, since your hands are being controlled by your brain, obviously, imagine how will that work? How can I draw a whole figure if I'm like half awake?
Right. Imagine me. I'm not artistic at all, so like that would be even worse for me.
And then like they're putting it to work. You're like, oh, you have to create.
Oh, yeah, and then there's like later classes too, from like 6 to 8:45. So you're here until almost 9, and that's like 2. It's like, oh, I want to go home.
Yeah, I have like those days. Like studio classes run for like 2 hours to 2 hours and 45 minutes, and so I take
almost 3 hours.
Yeah, almost 3 hours, and I take. Right now, I think I'm taking 4 studio classes, and so I have 2, like almost every day. It's like 3 hours of classes and just art. This last year I had 4 classes in one day, and three out of the 4 classes were studio classes.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's happening to me this semester, because all my lecture classes are on Mondays. So Mondays are long days for me. I have like one class that is almost 3 hours, from 8 to 10:50. Then I have the other one from noon to 1:50, and then the other one from 2 to 3:50. So like it's like back to back. Yeah, but yeah.
It's just as soon as it's night, you just wanna.
Right. So my Mondays are usually pretty long. But at the end of the week, I'm like, okay, it's nice because I have class or my lectures on Monday, clinicals Tuesday and Wednesday, and then I'm done Thursday, Friday. So like,
yeah,
I guess it pays off for it.
It's okay.
I think one thing we both probably can understand each other is burnout. Like how like if you're having so many lectures and we're having so many hours of working on a project, how do you deal with burnout?
It's hard. Yeah, no, I totally get that. I personally, I am very religious. So like, I try to go to church almost every day of the week. My church is open like 6 days out of the 7. It's only for an hour, and it's more like a worship kind of thing. Yeah. It's only for an hour. And when I get to go, like, like again, Mondays are really long, and I go home, take a little nap, and then go to church, and like just by praising God and like just opening my heart to Him, I feel like every time I just walk out of church is like I'm renewed. It's like I go there and I get that fuel for the next day. And yeah, but I like napping a lot too, like so that's one of my go-to, like after a long day, like just napping. yeah, and I love spending time with my friends too. Something that I try to do, but it's hard. You know, like again, like being a full-time student, having to work, and on top of that, like the extracurricular activities that I have
Yeah.
on campus. So it's hard sometimes to find time for
Time.
all of us to be available.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
I like, I'm an RA and also I'm working here part of like the Justice Center, so I have like 2 jobs that I have to attend to, and then just me being a full-time student. And I'm impressed with you because that one time when I went to Panda Express, you surprised me out of nowhere. I was like ordering food, and then you're like, yeah, and I was like, ah. But I'm really impressed because I saw your little tag manager.
Yeah.
I can see you're balancing your like student life here and then outside
Yeah.
stuff, and I'm really impressed.
Yeah. It's definitely some of the things like I've had to learn the hard way, because I used to not have that work school balance, especially when I was pre-med. I was actually so I've been at Panda Express for 4 years. I started working there in 2018, and so I became a manager last year. However, no, I'm lying. 2021. I became manager at 2021, and I opened a new Panda Express here in Fort Wayne. So I was working like 50 plus hours and being a full-time student. So obviously there was a lot of burnout there, you know, like
I need to get you a trophy. I need to like best student, hardworking student.
But yeah, it was like I would get off class, go to work, or get off work and then come to class, depending on if my classes were in the morning or afternoon. But again, so I didn't have that work school balance, and I ended up having to leave Panda Express. I was like, I can't do this no more. Academics is my focus right now. And so I left, and so that's when I actually changed from pre-med to nursing, and I started the first semester of nursing clinical. So I was like, I need to focus. I need to really put my 100% to school, and it's hard though because like I personally had to pay part of my tuition out of pocket, and so like my mom currently is not working, and like it's hard. So like deep inside me I'm like I have to work, but thankfully like there was a scholarship opportunity that came through, and like I was able not to work that semester. However, I finished that semester, and then apparently I'm like really good at my job. And so like people from Panda Express contacted me again, and they're like, like we like you back. And I was very indecisive about it. I was like, should I really do it? And so I ended up going back as a shift leader, which was a position down from what the manager position was. But as soon as I worked, like I was working, like I went back and I worked for like, I don't know, a couple weeks. And they're like, do you want the manager position again? And I ended up taking it. But like they have been very flexible with me. Because again, I emphasized, I was like, school is my priority right now. And so I'm able to have that balance between school and work and all the other stuff going on.
Fourth question?
Fourth question.
Okay. Where do you want to be in 5 years?
Hopefully working as a nurse practitioner. Again, I'm a nursing student right now, and I am graduating this December. Then I plan to work, like at least a year in the nursing field, see, get that experience, see what it actually is to be out there working as a nurse. And then I am planning to come back to St. Francis for my doctor's degree. St. Francis has just opened this program where you can go from Associate of Nursing to Doctor of Nurse Practitioner without you getting an actual master's degree, so you can skip that. So that's pretty nice. Yeah, and so I'm actually already working towards it, because since you don't get that master's degree, you do have to take a semester of like classes that are supposed to prepare you for your doctor's degree. But I'm taking those classes as part of my minor right now, and so I'm getting those classes out of the way, so I'm hopefully gonna shorten that time by a whole semester, hopefully.
I'm excited
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, way to
Thanks.
go.
Yeah, right. I know. I'm excited too.
If I break a leg, I know where to go.
Right. Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see what else God
believe
has
in
prepared
you.
for me.
I believe in you.
Thank you.
I hope you get to what you desire in the future.
Thank you. Thank you.
What have you learned being at USF?
I would say that the most important that I've learned is most important thing that I've learned is having that sense of community. I actually there's something very personal, and I probably have never shared it like in public, I would say, but during the year 2019, my mom got deported back to Guatemala, and so like it was really hard for me and my sister again because, my mom was always there for that. Moral support per se, like she was always there cooking for me and like just being there. Like again, I'm not a morning person. She was always the one knocking on my door, like it's time to go to school or whatever. And so during that time, my stepdad was always out working. My sister was like gone most of the day too. And so I kind of started falling into kind of like depression, I would say. And like I didn't want to come back to school. Like I started missing classes, and it was really hard for me to like stay motivated. And so like then I realized I was like, no, like I need to do this. I need to do this for me, for my mom.
Yeah.
So I started coming back to school, but a lot of like my close friends that I had started college with here at USF like found out about the situation, and they were really there for me. Like they made sure I was okay all the time. Like if I wanted to come to their house and like eat or something, like just anything. They were always trying to like hang out with me, and they definitely made that time more easier for me. Again, my mom is back here in the U.S. now, thank God. But again, yeah, like especially during that time, I really felt that sense of community and family here, that everybody cared, not just my friends or like classmates, but it was like a lot of professors, advisors also found out. Because again, I was missing school, so like everything was going crazy.
That cougar alert.
Right, like cougar alert. And so they found out, and like they were all very supportive of that and understanding. So, yeah, it was pretty nice.
I'm pretty proud of you of going through that difficult time in your life, especially like I understand that feeling of the like being separated from your mother. Like my father passed away like 4 years ago, and so my mom is like the only person right there. And so being here at USF, I was like kind of scared too, where I'm like away from my mom, away from family. I was new here, and so having that sense of community, especially even though the percentage of like people who are like minorities or any other cultures is not that big, I was able to create a sense of a home and family, or like I was able to make friends here, and I was really happy. Especially my roommate Savannah, I was able to connect very close to them, and they're like one of my closest friends.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like you create those long life lasting relationships. Again, like since I changed majors, like I'm delayed a year. So like the people that I started here at St. Francis with already graduated this past May. But even then, like we might not have that, like day-to-day communication, but we're always checking on each other, like I don't know, it's funny, we make fun of it, like they're all like, oh, we have to schedule time to talk to Abner, like 3 days in advance or something. Like,
that's what it usually is.
Yeah, but again, like there are some people that, like again, during that situation with my mom, like they cried with me, they were there for me, and it really like hits you, because even though like again my mom was following actually like an actual like immigration case, like like she was trying to like fix all the like stuff, because she moved here because of domestic violence, right? So she had a case, and it had been going for like 13 years, and then all of a sudden it got denied. So then she ended up going back, and like it just, even though all that's happening, like it's still like shocking. Like, you know, like
No,
when you
yeah.
find out that that's going to happen, like it's like what? Like I never thought it was actually going to happen to me. And I think again with those like my friends that were around me, like they were mostly Americans, fully Americans. So they were like, you know, like new to this whole situation that like, you know, like it was shocking for them
Yeah.
too in a way.
As is like it's something that they'll never experience.
Right,
but
right.
as like someone who's Hispanic who has like parents from like coming from a different country, that's always a fear that
Mhm.
everyone has. I have that fear, and so like
I too have that
yeah,
fear.
we all can experience the same thing that you just went through, and I feel like you telling us your story can give others motivation. It's like if some situation happened, don't give up. There's going to be people who will support you, and there's always a way that you'll go through that obstacle you'll
Yeah.
face.
And I think it's definitely important to, like, again, if I would have not said anything, maybe like none of my friends would have found out about it, and they wouldn't have been there for me.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to be open about it. You know, sometimes we're like scared to talk about all these topics because it's not the norm, or I don't
Yeah.
know, you know. And so again, like, I think there's definitely a big support system here at St. Francis again overall.
What would you say to anyone who has a friend that would go through something like that and they want to be there for them and they can't understand that experience? What advice would you give them to be there for their friend?
I think, I mean, just being there for them overall. Again, like, you know, like you mentioned, they might not get to experience that firsthand, you know, but, and again, like I mentioned, sometimes some of us might be like scared to talk about it. And so, like, really having that trust between each other, you know, to like be able to communicate. Maybe, like, again, maybe they're not saying everything, like whoever the person is that's going through it. So, you know, just making sure they're good, you know. You're just checking them on them, you know, and just being there for them. Just for anything that they need, like in any aspect, you know, academically, you know, or just even like as a friend, you know, like a listening ear. Sometimes we just need that listening ear and someone that's going to reassure us that everything's going to be okay.
Well, thank you for sharing your experience, for sure. I'm glad you were able to open up, especially this, like, a topic that can be very sensitive to people. You are an amazing person.
Oh, thank you.
I have to say, you're just one
Thank
amazing
you.
person who had faced challenges, and you find out a way to overcome them.
Yeah.
And so, just to let you know, you should be proud of yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's definitely been a lot. It's been a long ride, but again, I feel like I've had that support system, and again, I feel like God has never left me alone. He's always been there for me. So.
Well, just to, I guess for everyone who's out there, there's always a sense of community here that you can go to. I feel like all of us has learned being here that there's always going to be listening ear.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's one of the perks or like the good things about USL.
Yeah, definitely a takeaway. I feel like just talking to anybody when you ask them about something they like about St. Francis, one of the first things they'll say is the sense of community.
Yeah.
So I think everybody's on the same page about that.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, that's all the questions that we have for you. Thank you for being here. I guess we're ready for the outro.
Yeah.
I remember we sing it. Okay. So thank you for being here and being part of the podcast that we've been working on, sharing your experiences and your stories and your obstacles that you faced. I'm glad that you gave us your time to being here. Do you have anything you want to say?
No.
Just thank you for considering me, you know.
Yeah.
I was actually pretty excited when you told me about this, and I appreciate you guys doing this. You Saul too, you know.
Yeah, Saul is in the back.
He's in the
You
background.
want to say hi?
But just the whole, you know, like social justice center, like just doing these things, like it might seem like at first it might not seem like a big impact, but I feel like it's definitely making the difference for many students, and it's definitely allowing more of that inclusion about the different cultures. And I think it's pretty nice that it doesn't just focus on like the Hispanic culture. It's just like, you know, like overall,
Everyone.
like different cultures.
We're trying to get to like different people who has different experience, and so we're slowly trying to get a group of people here. We're trying to get there, but sometimes there's an issue, especially with scheduling. But I'm hoping that we can reach out to different people out here on campus and tell us their stories and their experiences. So, like again, thank you for being here, telling all about yourself. Thank you for Alicia too being my co-host. Sadly that Shawnee can't be here as he's busy. Hopefully next episode or next time he'll be able to participate with us. So, ready to say goodbye?
Yeah.
Do you want to pick a sound? You probably can't hear it, but they'll hear it.
Yeah.
All right, great. I was like, I don't know if I'm doing this right.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day. Bye.
Bye.